Welcome to The Explainer. Now, if you're already familiar with devotional studies, you probably know the general themes. But the Faith Frequency Project, it does something totally different. It literally forces structured prose to collide with deeply emotional, lyrical music. It acts like this dual lens to unpack one really profound theme, the divine response to human suffering and brokenness. We're going to explore how these texts and lyrics work together to totally reframe how we view our absolute lowest moments. So let's just dive right in.
There's this incredible tension here, a massive, watchful eye radiating all this warmth from above, while a chained figure sits completely shrouded in shadow down below. It perfectly captures the whole core focus of the project, which is that mystical intersection of human grief and divine pursuit. The source material really drives home that God's presence isn't just saved for those bright, happy mountaintop moments. Actually, it zeroes right in on the dark, desolate landscapes of our lives. It's just a powerful picture of divine nearness when we're hurting.
The very first devotional hits us with this beautifully counterintuitive thought. You think your brokenness pushes God away. It doesn't. It pulls him closer. Our natural human instinct is absolutely to hide when we're shattered, right? We feel like the weight we're carrying puts all this distance between us and heaven, like we're just way too messy for the divine. But the text, echoing the lyrics of the song The Gravity of Brokenness, flips this completely upside down. It argues that divine grace is actually attracted to our lowest moments. It's not repelled by them at all. When you're literally on the floor weeping until you've got nothing left, well, that is exactly where he comes.
And that brings us to our first major section, comfort for the lowly, the posture of the heart. Let's look at how the source material reframes our worldly understanding of weakness. The text anchors really heavily on this one specific word, contrite. The definition given here is absolutely pivotal. It means crushed, ground down, humbled to dust. Crucially, the authors define it as the person who has simply stopped pretending and performing, and hey, let's be honest, keeping up that performance all the time is exhausting anyway, isn't it? God isn't looking for polished perfection or someone trying to hold all their broken pieces together with their own sheer strength. He's looking for deep authenticity. A contrite spirit is just one that's let go of the show and admitted they have absolutely nothing left to prove.
Which brings up a tension we all feel, right? As the fourth devotional and the song The Posture of a Contrite Heart point out, everyone is trying to impress God. He's looking for something else entirely. We live in a society that is constantly demanding impressive resumes, built-up brands, the right connections. It's so easy to bring that exact same energy into our faith and just assume the divine is moved by our production or our spiritual track record. But the text corrects this. God isn't scanning the room for the loudest or most put-together person. He's actually leaning toward the quiet, the honest, and the reverent.
This builds into a really stark juxtaposition, drawn directly from the lyrics of From Dust to Destiny. See, the world defines you by where you start, dust, lost, and strictly rewards performance. But the divine view flips the script entirely to destiny and royalty, honoring the contrite heart. The devotional based on Psalm 113 notes that there's this invisible suffering and feeling overlooked or left behind. Yet the divine pattern is to reach right into the literal dunghill, the absolute most desolate, humiliating place, and lift the needy up to a seat with princes. Your beginning in the dust does not determine your destiny.
Which leads us right into our next section, Scene in the Wilderness, the story of Hagar. Let's take a look.
In Genesis 16, which is featured in Devotional 3, we revisit Hagar. We know the history. She was used up, cast out, and utterly alone. But the project highlights this profound aha moment. She doesn't name God from a mountaintop. She names him from a desert of pain, El Roi, the God who sees me.
The lyrics from the song El Roi, the God who sees me, really underscore the heavy emotional weight of this. She was alone in the desert, and God found her first. The source material makes such a fascinating distinction here. This isn't just some passive observation from the clouds. No, it is compassionate, engaged, and active seeing. It's the kind of seeing that acknowledges the wounds you hide away and actually moves heaven to respond. For anyone out there who feels invisible or completely overlooked, the text emphasizes that being seen in this specific way, it changes everything.
Now we shift to what is arguably the emotional climax of our explainer, the relentless pursuit leaving the 99.
1. Just 1, Devotional 6, based on Luke 15, highlights the shepherd's radical prioritization. The shepherd leaves the 99 other sheep in the wilderness for the singular pursuit of the one that is lost. It's a pursuit that completely defies logic. It doesn't calculate the cost, the distance, or the inconvenience. I mean, heaven itself throws a joyous party for just one.
Let's break down the mechanics of this uncalculating pursuit. What's so fascinating here is the text reminder that the sheep cannot come back on its own. It's completely stuck. So the shepherd goes until he find it. Not until it gets too dark or too hard, but until. And when he does finally find it, he doesn't shame it or drag it by the neck. The text points out that he gently lays it on his shoulders and carries it home. The sheep doesn't earn the search, it simply receives the grace of being carried.
The song The Shepherd's Road Home distills all of this into such a deeply comforting lyric. You didn't wander too far. He was already on his way to find you. For anyone watching who has convinced themselves that way too much time has passed or that they've drifted way beyond divine reach, this is the core message of the Faith Frequency Project. The shepherd already left the 99. The distance and the mistakes simply do not outpace the pursuit. No way.
Finally, let's move to our last section. Actionable takeaway. The urgency of reconciliation. We've talked a lot about experiencing divine grace, but how does that actually create urgency in our human relationships?
The fifth devotional, based on Matthew 5:25, unpacks the really high cost of waiting to make things right with someone else. Jesus commands urgency. He says to reconcile quickly whilst thou art in the way. Why? Because delayed reconciliation compounds the problem. As time passes, conflict escalates, and bitterness takes root. When there's just silence between two people, interpretation and resentment fill up that void. What starts as a tiny crack of pride quickly builds into this massive wall, making it a far, far harder fracture to heal.
So I'm going to ask you the exact same direct, piercing question the devotional asks its readers. Who came to mind when you read that? Seriously, think about that relationship in your life right now that has a crack in it. Maybe you're both just sitting there waiting for the other person to make the first move. The text challenges us here. The person who truly understands the grace they've been given is the one who takes the initiative. Not because they have to, but because they know exactly what's at stake.
We're going to conclude this explainer with a really poignant lyric from the song The Grace of Reconciliation. Let the first word be obey. Let the last word be today. It's such a provocative call to immediate action. Don't let the sun go down while you're still carrying that stone around. If the divine pursues us with such relentless, uncalculating grace when we are completely broken and in the dust, how can we possibly justify withholding that same grace from each other? So the real question leaves these words and enters your life right now. Who do you need to reach out to? And are you going to make that call today?